Welcome back to the AME Food Safety Show. I love this song. You know why? Because we have a whole generation of rock and rollers. Here's the problem with those guys. A lot of them have been influenced by the wrong influence, by media. Let's talk for a minute about one thing that we love to do. It's called discrimination. What do we discriminate on? We discriminate on products that we purchase. Let's start that first slide. Country of origin labeling. This is what I'm talking about with discrimination. All your prejudices, all your preferences, prejudice means the thing you don't like. Preferences means the thing you do like. Come out when you start buying food. Let's talk about one thing that makes food producers throughout the world angry. I mean, politically, forcefully, motivatingly angry. Look at that slide. Country of origin labeling. Look at that beautiful piece of meat right there. And it says originated where? Why don't food producers, particularly from Canada and Mexico for meat, why don't they want to have their country of origin identified on the product itself? Why? Because they know Americans pick intelligently and knowledgeable based on their prejudices. Look at that cart on the right. That's actually an artistic graphic of an actor pulling products that will go into your grocery store for which you will either buy or not buy. It's a yes or no. It either sits on the shelf or you're buying it. What's the deal with that cart? You see products from India, New Zealand, United States, Ireland, and China. What does that have to do with anything? Well, the fact is that Americans are discriminating buyers. If you see a product that's been labeled not from the United States, don't you take a second guess? Don't you think and wonder, in China, do they have the same food safety standards that we have here in the United States? I will answer you with the following answer, yes and no. Yes, you will get a sheet of paper that says it's been laboratory tested. How do you know if those documents are correct? No, it's been falsified. And no, it's loaded full of things that are illegal here in the United States, and that's why it's on special. Labeling is primarily a food safety issue, but politicians have picked up on it because they know that food producers have a lot of money to spend on politicians. So here's what's going on. The American market is big money to Canada, Mexico, and the rest of the world. Americans come from a wide swath of immigration. So those people from, let's say, India, that live here in the United States, they might prefer spice from India. That's fine with me, as long as they eat it. But the minute it makes somebody sick, then it's all of our problems. You decide who wins and who loses in the grocery store. And you'll be surprised how far your decisions, your discrimination, and your preferences go in the world. Next slide. All right, it's a political question, first and foremost. Why? Fresh from where is a very political question when it comes to you go into a giant store and you look at that label and you're just looking at the price. You're not seeing where it's originated. Well, guess what? Where food was born, raised, and slaughtered are three different questions. Where did that cow, primarily if you're looking at beef, or where's that pork, that cow, that pig, where was that chicken raised? In other words, it's ingesting in its flora the organisms that live in its stomach, and also that water may have parasites that will go out into their flesh. So that is then raised. Maybe then it's brought into the United States in a semi-finished form, so it's in the rendering house or the slaughterhouse. And some slaughterhouses are becoming very discriminatory. They will say, hey, look, we don't want to have any beef from Mexico here in our slaughtering house. Or we don't have any beef from Mexico here, or United States or Canada. So they make that distinction. Canada and Mexico want an equal market with American food. Is it really equal? The fact is, in the new food safety law, the FDA has to go and inspect that facility. They have to check the water. They have to check the produce, and they have to check the food. So USA products sold in Canada and Mexico is another issue. If there's USA beef up in Canada, is it going to be as competitive as Canadian beef or United States beef in Mexico? I've been there. It's more expensive. Why? Because even the Mexicans know that their food production system is weak as far as food safety compared to the United States. And you might go to a factory or two, which I've done. Some of them are amazing and just have the space-age technology. But look at where they're getting their water. They're getting out of a river where you might find dead animals. You might find horrible contaminants from a local factory or a local water distribution area or a local chemistry factory. So what we're saying here, cool, what does it mean? And what does it mean to you? Next slide. One of the biggest and challenging markets that we have in the United States is we have an ever-growing population of people that love fresh seafood. What's the challenge with that? Well, first let me disclose to you, a lot of my relatives fought and died in Vietnam. Now, we're Americans of Mexican descent. We've been here 5 generations, but there's American blood shed in the country of Vietnam during what they call the American War. I'll disclose that to you first. And the second thing I'll disclose to you, if anybody's ever been and visited the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C., you see all the names scratched out there on that concrete and on that marble surface. What you don't see are the faces. Some of the Smiths and Jones, you can't tell if it's black or white, but you can tell Gonzalez and Gomez. And the majority of those dead in Vietnam are Latinos. How does that have to do anything with food? Well, if you go to major seafood outlets, what you're going to see when it's labeled is a product of Vietnam. They're sending large amounts of food here to the United States, primarily seafood. And what we're looking at here on the image on the right is, yes, it's from Costco, yes, it's from Vietnam, and yes, you have to make a choice. And I'll tell you what the deal is. Seafood products from Asia are testing positive. What does that mean? You're finding bacteria, you're finding chemicals, you're finding antibiotics in that product because they don't care. Farmed seafood has a high risk of contamination from those products. Antibiotics and human bacterial pathogens can be transferred directly to you. And their argument is, hey, Andy, that's not ready to eat. It's ready to cook. So when you cook it, it'll kill everything out of it. Yeah, that's your choice. But I'm giving you the facts. Next slide. Well, guess what? Here's another fact you might want to chew on. 90% of all shrimp is imported. And the bottom line, it comes primarily from Asia, from those seafood farms. A lot of it comes from Mexico. But here's what I'm saying. It's been imported from overseas. Here's another shock. This is a shock slide, and you should think about it. The FDA, who everybody thinks is protecting their food, is not. They have a federal mandate under congressional law that they should inspect 100% of all seafood coming in. Well, guess what? 3.7% of shrimp is what they call inspected and tested. That's 2 different things. Inspected means somebody's looked at it. Tested means they've taken a sample and verified chemically or bacterially. Guess what? Tested is less than 1% in 2014. Now, if that market's growing and the FDA budget is going down, what happens at 0.7% is not going to be very effective because they're going to get lower and lower. And I'll let you know this from a testing, a food safety scientist. Operationally, I run labs. Most samples are contaminated, particularly from the East. So you think about it. You think about their food standards. What's going on inside a food worker's brain, like the person on the right? Do they have the same germ theory background that you do? Even a high school education is superior to many other folks. Next slide. All right. We're not really talking about food safety here. We're talking about economics. That means somebody getting paid, somebody delivering a product. This cartoon on the left is very much an example of what we're talking about here. When these companies, these foreign companies, start losing business because you as the consumer are being prejudiced, you're not picking out food from Vietnam, they're going to see their sales go down. So what are they going to start doing? They're going to start fighting for trade barriers to be let down. And this is a trade barrier. When you see that label on there, you're hearing the truth. They want that label to never distinguish which country it came from. That's great when you're in the grocery store. What about a subsidy that some company in Canada, like the cattle business up there, they get federal money printed out from the Canadian government to grow a piece of meat. You see it on your plate when you go to the restaurant, but you don't know where it's from. But there has been an economic disadvantage between an American grower of beef and the Canadian grower. They might do the same thing in Argentina. They grow beef there too. They ship it up here, and you don't know if the government's supporting them or subsidizing. They call it an unfair market advantage. Now, when you're at a salad bar, do you know where all those things came from? It's obvious that you could never know where. Let's look on that. For example, the asparagus, where are they getting that from? The carrots. Where are they getting all those products from? Do you know? The watermelon? Most of it comes from Mexico, by the way. So the issue is, it is purely an economic issue. That's what they pay the politicians to do, to change the laws to make it easier on one side or the other. Whenever you hear a politician say, oh, we're going to knock down the trade barriers, be very cautious what you're eating. Next slide. All right. Here's what countries do. When they do their own testing, for example, in Asia, and they found listeria, I had a conference with 42 apple growers in the state of Washington, and they were mad because the Asian countries had tested the apples and found listeria. Well, guess what? The countries in those areas that tested, they had a ban. No more apples from the United States. Guess what happened to those apples? They didn't throw them into the ocean. They were sent down to Mexico, where the Mexicans paid high price. I was down there during this time, and they loved the red delicious apples. They ate them up, literally. Here's the deal. When the U.S. FDA puts a ban on imports, for example, shrimp, when you go to the store and you see, or you go to a party and you see a beautiful list of that party plate with the shrimp and just the sauce, do you know where it came from? Yes or no? You don't. You just eat it, enjoy it. Well, the FDA's grab samples, which means they might take a ton and take 50 grams, is less than 1% of whatever the load is. That's what's known as an unreliable sample. It's unverified. It's horrible. They might find antibiotics. They might find Salmonella, E. coli, or Vibrio. If you are sensitive to those issues, take warning. Next slide. All right. This is why I personally left the healthcare business and came into food testing. This reason. That imported seafood counts for 1.2%, so strike that, 0.12% of yearly illnesses in the United States. People are eating anything and then they run to the hospital to get cured. How to sue a foreign food producer? If you had a foreign food producer in Chile that produced your steak, are you going to sue them? No, you're going to sue the grocery store, the slaughterhouse, everybody that had anything to do with it. FDA checks some food facilities in foreign countries, but not all. Look at how lawyers on the top right-hand side of this slide, look how they prove their cases. They take a DNA sample from the food production facility, and then they take it from the patient, the stool primarily, and they match that using pulse field gel electrophoresis. And what they do after they have that match, they just write a check and the owners pay it. What does that mean to you? If you buy some shrimp from China or some beef from China, you have very limited recourse to sue Chinese. That's what these trade agreements are all about. That we eat their stuff, but we can't sue them. Next slide. All right, here are my suggestions. I have a few seconds. Read the labels. Look at the country of origin. Yes, it matters. And food safety is not the same in other countries. And some food producers in the United States are also horrible. Thank you very much.